Right now is the best time to build a software product. It has never been easier. Now, I've spent nearly a decade working as a software engineer, and what I'm seeing today is a fundamental shift in how software products are built. With advancements in AI tools like V0, what used to take weeks to build now can be accomplished in sometimes minutes. And you don't need a crazy amount of technical experience to be able to accomplish these results. With the right process, anybody can do it. So if you're a beginner wanting to build your own software products for passive income, then you're going to want to stick around. I'll break down the exact step-by-step process I use to ship software in 2025 that is completely beginner-friendly. And the best part, you'll be production ready to serve hundreds of customers with a tech stack that is 100% free. No monthly cost or usage bills or anything like that. All right, now let's get into it. But why is it so easy all of a sudden to build software, and what's this revolution that's happening? Well, to understand it a little bit better, let's go back in time to the year 1913, when a similar revolution took place. Prior to 1913, an automobile was actually considered like a luxury item that very few people actually owned. And the main reason, well, is because building a car required manual labor that was not scalable or using a standardized process. No one had really come to the conclusion that there was a pattern to building a car yet. So you had to have very skilled laborers that knew a ton of stuff so that you could build just a single car. And so production was limited to kind of just building one-off vehicles or really small batches that went out to customers. So you had high cost, low production, and just the time to get to market was extremely long. But fast forward a few years, all of a sudden millions of cars were being sold, and it became a standard household item that nearly everyone owned. So what exactly changed within those few years? Well, that was the introduction of the assembly line from Henry Ford. And in essence, what that did was create a repeatable process of small tasks that could be picked up and learned by a large majority of workers. So now you had parts that were standardized and a process that was repeatable and easily learned, and all of a sudden production boomed and everyone was able to buy a car because it was now affordable, it was a quick turnaround, and manufacturers could just crank out so many more vehicles than before. Now today, we're seeing that same type of thing happen, but for software. AI, in terms of building software, is the equivalent to what the assembly line was for manufacturing cars. It's drastically reducing the speed of development and creating a repeatable, standardized process that just more people can understand to build these complex software systems. You don't need all of that skilled labor like before. AI fills that gap and does it for you. But as we speak, it's just the beginning of this revolution. So if you apply this process that I'll outline today, you can get ahead of the game before everyone starts to realize just how easy it is to build software on their own. All right, now let's dive into my step-by-step assembly line-like process powered by AI to help you build your next software product. Now, first up, there's a ton of tools you can use to interface with this kind of process that we're going to outline, but the ones I'm going to list now are my battle-tested, production-ready tools that I personally use as a software engineer when building my own products. So that tech stack is as follows. We're going to use Next.js as the core of the application, which will handle both the front-end visual parts as well as the back-end business type logic that we'll need. We'll use Supabase, which is a service that will give us a really easy way to manage users through user authentication, and also provide a free tier SQL database to store all of our data. We'll use Vercel for hosting our application so that it can get out to users. And we'll use ShadCN as our customizable library that is powered by Tailwind and gives you a full list of components that are completely production ready and cover all of the use cases you might need for your own application. Lastly, we'll put all of our code on GitHub and sync that with our Vercel account so that we can easily push updates that will automatically trigger a new deployment so that users get your updated features instantly. All right, now let's put those tools together and build an application. So the first thing we're gonna do is head on over to supabase.com and set up an account here to power all of our authentication and database type stuff. Once we're in the dashboard, we can go ahead and create our project and create our organization. We can call it whatever we want, just to get started. And all you'll ever need is the free plan when you're just getting started. Now that our project is spun up, we can actually get coding at this point. And what I think is pretty much the easiest way to get started is just to head over to the Supabase Next.js documentation and we'll go ahead and follow this route. So we can skip down here and copy this terminal command, and then in terminal we can head to our directory that we want and just paste in that command. Once that command is done, we can open up our code editor, and from here we'll have pretty much an entire Next.js application set up for us that just with a few minor tweaks we can have completely set up and ready to go. So the first thing we're going to want to do is just make sure that we adjust our env settings. So I'll go ahead and copy this to a .local file, and we'll replace these values with our actual keys, which we can get from our support-based dashboard. All right, once your keys are in, then all we have to do is run our dev script, and this is going to spin up our application. We can go to that URL, check it out, and see how it's looking. And this is what we got. We have our application set up. We have sign in, sign up, already taken care of a lot of that boilerplate that you might need to set up on your own. And you can see it's actually functional. So I'll go ahead and provide an account. And when I sign up, I get asked for email verification. If I follow that email link that it sent me, then I get taken here where I can then just log into my account. And I get all of my authentication info here. And you'll see in your dashboard, if you come back and check the authentication tab, you'll now have a user signed up that you can manage directly from here and see all their information. So just like that, we already have our bare bones application set up within just a few minutes. But obviously, this is just the kind of like boilerplate. We're pretty far off from having a real application. But with the power of V0, which I'll show you now, is how I can basically create an entire application with just knowing how to correctly create prompts for V0 to create the code for me. So if I go to my dashboard, this is the page here, and I'm just going to actually remove all of this info and just return a hello world prompt so that we can see this is what we're working with. And I want to create an actual dashboard with some visuals for my application. We'll start really simple. We'll do a to-do list, and I want to have basically the ability to manage my to-dos, add a to-do, and mark them as complete. So normally I would go in, actually code all of that, but now I can use V0 to do the work for me. Within V0, it's very similar to any other AI prompt tool that you might have used before, but what we want to do is focus on creating user stories that V0 can understand and create in the context of our application itself. So the first prompt I like to use is just to set the kind of foundation or context that V0 will need about our application. So here's my kind of base context that I need to give V0. And now let's write our actual first feature that we want to implement. So I'm going to say I want on my dashboard to view and manage my to-do items. But you want to think kind of like a product manager of how you might want to break down this work into a ticket that a developer might normally see. So we'll write what's called AC, or acceptance criteria, that will be used to really just flush out all of the edge cases and how we envision this feature working. All right, so here's my acceptance criteria. And one of the important things with this is that you don't have to have everything outlined at the beginning. V0 is great at just being iterative and kind of going along with you as you go. So we'll use this as the first prompt and just get that kick-started and iterate as we go. So once you run this command, usually your preview is not going to work, but that's okay because we're just going to focus on the code tab that it generated for us. And we're going to add that to our own application. And you'll see this is the prompt that V0 gave us. A lot of information, and you can see a lot of code generated for us really quickly. And so let's kind of look at how this is looking. What I'll do is really just take these and start creating these exact file structure in my code base. So I have a folder actions with to-do actions. I'll go ahead and copy that file, come into my application, and add that exact file in the actions directory, paste that in, and we'll see we get errors in here, and this V0 already knew about. If we come back to our prompt, you can see down here that it says, oh, we need to install these additional packages to make sure everything works for us. So I'll go ahead and do that as well. So I finish copying that code over and I run it, I get an error. But that's actually expected because we're asking for data from a database table that doesn't quite exist yet. And it's actually pretty easy to update. So we're going to go back to v0 and we're basically going to say, hey, I don't have my supabase table created yet. Can you help me do so? I'm going to paste it in here, remove some of the things that aren't important at the bottom, and go ahead and press run. And that's done. So now I can come back to my application and actually see that it's all set up for me now with that new to-dos table. So now I can come over here and let's see if it works. Okay, so I had to refresh the page, but I did see that my first to-do came through once I submitted it. So now I can come back to my database and actually head to that table, view it, and see my first to-do come through in the database. And I can come in here, make a change, and now I can come back to my application and see it's been updated. Now let's try deleting. Boom, gone. And I can come back here, let's refresh, and that's also gone. So just like that, we now have a full stack application saving data to a specific user, authenticating them, all of that really quickly. And all it took was one v0 prompt. Now I can go from here and maybe I want to update the styling or do anything. I just follow and repeat the same process of writing out a ticket, writing the acceptance criteria for it, and then just iterating and copying that code into my application. And you can see how fast you can start to build something out. It'll never be perfect, but it will get you almost 80%, 90, sometimes 95% of the way there. And you just keep iterating on the prompts to get the exact code that you want. Now, as you'll see, our application is on our local machine, and of course we want to get this out to the real world for people to interact with. So that'll be the last step, is just getting this on a server that can be used by anyone. And again, it's pretty straightforward and free. All we're going to do is commit our changes to GitHub. So we'll create our GitHub repo for this. We can keep it private here, create that, and then copy this remote origin script, come back to our terminal, paste that in. And now we have our repository going. And the last step is to load this into Vercel. So you create your Vercel account, and then eventually you can get to this step to import a Git repository. And this is my repository that I created. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. It knows that this is a Next.js application, so I actually don't really need to do much here. I just need to add my environmental variables. And these are going to be the same exact ones that I had from my local environment. And they have a neat little thing where you can just copy these values in. So I went to my env local file and copied my values. And then all I have to do is click this and just press Command V, and that'll paste them right in there for me. Now I just hit deploy, and my job is done here. Now that my project is built, I have also gotten my domain here. So let's go ahead and visit it. And I can sign in with that same account that I had created before, since it's using the same database. And there we go. I'm in on my hosted domain, and I can add my to-dos. And there we go. Everything is working as expected. Let's check the database. There's my to-dos, even with the Boolean and all of that stuff to handle completion. So that's a wrap on getting a production-ready application out there completely free, using the latest AI tools to do pretty much all of the work for us. We just need to become good at debugging the code that's generated with actual application, which is usually only about 5% of the code that needs to change. So yeah, at this point, you've got your custom application, and you just keep repeating the v0 prompts to eventually end up at a full-fledged application that you can deploy to the world. Now, these tools and this process are really just the tip of the iceberg. If you really want to maximize your output, My business partner and I have put together a list of 20 plus tools that we use within our own workflows that are real game changers. You can head over to Built Solo to grab a copy of our Solo Builders Toolkit. It's completely free. The link is in the description below. And if you want to hear some of the lessons I've learned just from over the past 8 years of building software for startups, then be sure to check out this video where I go over some of the biggest lessons and failures and just mistakes I've made that can help you have a higher chance of success when actually creating your product. Until next time, peace out.